everyone, my name is Cheryl. I am an Ielts expert. In this video, you are going to learn all the data that you need about Ielts academic writing. Task 1. We are going to look at Ielts academic writing skills, strategies, and tips for Task 1. So we are going to have a look at some real tips for how to score Band 8 or above. You may need to take some notes about these tips, which you need to utilize while writing. Please click the subscribe button if you aren't a subscriber and like if you like the video. What are we going to learn? Skills, strategies, and tips for writing Task 1, Academic. These tips actually will help you to get Band 8 or above. Yes. Number 1. Prewriting stage. Step 1. In order to understand the writing task, you need to be able to interpret charts, tables, graphs, and diagrams. You may ask yourself, why do I have to interpret graphic information in Task 1? The answer is that being able to understand and describe graphic information is an important academic skill. You need to show that you can interpret this type of factual information clearly and accurately. You need to develop a good understanding of different types of visual data. The following examples of graphs, charts, and diagrams will help you do so. Let's have a look at the first example. This is a bar chart. In this bar chart, the values are given along one axis, and each bar represents what is being measured along the other axis. The bars can be then compared. For example, the bar chart on the right shows what a group of students think about the film they have just seen. We can interpret the information by saying that half the students did not like the film, or by saying that 50% of the students did not like the film. We can be even more specific and state the 15 out of 30 students did not like the film. Pie chart. A pie chart is another way of presenting information, but the segments are always percentages of a whole. Together, they represent 100%. Let's have a look at this example. Box Music Store sales. So this pie chart talks about the statistics of sales. Here, the DVDs represent 60%, posters 5% only, CDs 15%, PC games 20%. Tables. That is an example of tables. Tables present information about different categories. Sometimes tables can be turned into charts, but sometimes the categories are too different to do this. Let's have a look. Methods of travel by person. Walking in Britain is 19%. If compared to Australia, in Australia it is 15% only. The highest rate is in Singapore is 25%. As for traveling by car, in Britain it's 65%, the same as Australia. But in Singapore, traveling by car is least, it's 10% only. Public transport. Here in Britain it's 16%, and it is the least if compared to Australia and Singapore. Australia, here the travel by public transport is 20%. As for Singapore, it's 65%. Line graph. Line graphs show how information or data change over time. The highlight trends. The line graph shows the changing trends in the level of car ownership. In Britain, it looks very simple, but it may not be. Let's have a look at this example we have here. If we look at 1960, the number was about 2 million. In 1970, the number is actually about 5 million. In 1990, the number is about 18 million. And in 2000, the number is about 26 million. Okay. In task 1, you will not always be asked to interpret factual information from a chart, table, or graph. You may be asked to describe a diagram which illustrates a process or which shows how something works. You should examine the diagram and any information you can see carefully. You must make sure you understand the diagram before you write your answer. You need to think about the following questions. What does the process diagram show? What are the steps mentioned in the diagram? What are the differences between cement production and concrete production? As we mentioned here, you need to know the beginning of this process and then you can follow the steps until the end of the production. Step 2. Now the number of paragraphs. You need to follow this model answer for your task 1. You need to start with the introduction, your introductory paragraph. This is your first paragraph. The second and third are called body paragraphs. They give a description of the statistics given. The last paragraph is your conclusion, in which you sum up what you actually mentioned earlier. Writing stage. Step 3. Write a descriptive introduction. What should you think about before you start writing? You need to ask yourself, what is the main purpose of this chart, table, or graph that is given to me? What is the purpose that I need to mention in my writing? State that what the chart, table, graph shows in your own words, then consider how to organize your ideas. You're gonna need to describe trends. You may ask a question, what is a trend? Trends are noticeable changes in a situation or in the way something usually behaves. For example, if you're talking about downloading music from the internet, is now much more common than buying CDs. Let's take this introductory paragraph as an example. Look at the introduction to the model answer for task 1 of writing test 1. The table shows the sales figures of fiction books, non-fiction books, and magazines in a college bookshop for February 2000. Here, we actually have the introductory paragraph, and the first sentence is called the topic sentence. It's written for you in bold. This one mentions the purpose here of this writing and actually gives us some information about what we're going to read later on. Let's have a look at this bar chart. In this bar chart, it is apparent that the number of tourists visiting Brazil rose. The chart shows an increase in the number of tourists visiting Brazil. Let's come to 1995, the number was less than 2 million. And in 1997, the number is less than 3 million. When it comes to 2000, the number exceeded 5 million. So, 4. Use cohesive devices appropriately. So your question is, what are cohesive devices? There are some linkers that you need actually to use while writing down your essay in order to keep the coherence of this essay or of this report that you're writing. If you want to express addition, you can use this group also. Furthermore, moreover, still, and again. Opposition, however, nevertheless, on the other hand, in contrast, if you want to reinforce the idea, besides, anyway, after all, if you want to explain it, for example, in other words, to clarify, for instance, that is to say, if you want to list, firstly, first of all, lastly, secondly, thirdly. You want to indicate results, therefore, consequently, hence, as a result, for this reason. You want to indicate time in the beginning, just then, meanwhile, later, at first. Step 5. Use suitable vocabulary. Here we have a table of a lot of vocabulary that I need to use while describing my report. If I'm talking about the trends, I can use a noun like a rise, an increase, a surge, a growth. If it goes down, a fall, a drop, a decline, a dip. If it reaches a peak, a peak. If it goes up and down, a fluctuation, variation. If it's stable, a period of stability. If it has a kind of a curve, a plateau. Verbs. You can use these verbs actually accompanied or followed by an adverb to express the trend or the change. To rise, to increase, to surge, to grow, go down, to fall, to drop, to decline, to dip. If it expresses a peak, to peak. If it expresses going up and down, to fluctuate or to vary. If it's stable, so to stabilize. If it has a curve, to plateau. Phrases. To show an upward trend, goes up. If it goes down, to show a downward trend. Hit the lowest point, hit drop. If it has a peak, to reach a peak. If it goes up and down, to show some fluctuation or variation. If it's stable, to remain stable or constant. Has a curve, to reach a plateau, to level up, to flatten out. Adjectives and adverbs. These adjectives and adverbs need to be used while writing. If you're actually describing a noun, you can use the adjective form of it without the ly, like sharp, dramatic, significant. If they follow a verb, you need to use the adverb form with ly, sharply, dramatically, significantly. The same for the rest. Steady as an adjective. So if you have here to use it as an adverb, you say steadily. The same. Relative, relatively. Considerable, considerably. The second highest. The third lowest. Slight, slightly. Gentle, gently. A little. Gradual, gradually. Step 6. Use reference structures, and they are actually so important to help you develop your writing. What do I mean by that? We need actually to introduce my sentences and relate them to the diagram or the chart I'm given in the question. So I need to use the table or the chart shows that. The diagram shows that. The graph shows that. The features show that. The statistics show that. So I can just vary and use different structures while introducing my sentences. So I don't stick to one because this will not give me a variation in the structure, which means that if I don't vary my structure, I will lose marks. According to the table, chart, according to the diagram, according to the graph, according to the figures, as it's shown in the table, as it's shown in the diagram, and so on. Can be seen from the table, can be seen from the chart. We can see from the table, we can see from the chart. It is clear or it is apparent from the figures, from the graph, that. Step 7. Present statistics effectively. You need to be effective while presenting your statistics. Like the example here, choose the most important trends and describe them. You can compare between what you're actually mentioning, or you can actually use comparative and superlative forms to report that. Here, as in your diagram or your bar chart, you have here, in the bar chart you have here, you need to compare between actually Chinese language and French language. You can say that the Chinese language is the most spoken language in the world. On the other hand, the French language is the least spoken language in the world. So you need to have a kind of a comparison, like you can say that English is the second spoken language in the world. You need to report your information mentioning a kind of comparison between the features you have. We actually have two forms, as we mentioned earlier, we can use while structuring our sentences. We can use verb plus adverb, as we mentioned, and you can refer back to the video. You will find a lot of examples. And you can find also the form number 2, which is adjective plus the noun, and it was actually mentioned in the video earlier. Let's have a look at this example. Look at the following examples from the model answer for task 1 of writing test 4. Here, Acme sports cars monthly profit fell dramatically. Here you have a verb plus an adverb. In number 2, Acme Sports Cars monthly profit decreased slightly. A verb plus an adverb. Rose sharply. You see? So actually here you have a verb plus an adverb. Okay, which form was used in the above mentioned examples? It is the verb plus an adverb. 8. Use the correct tense or voice. What do we mean by that? Mostly, while reporting, you need to use present tenses. Present simple, present continuous, present perfect. This is the main tenses you need to use. And the voice, it's better to use the passive voice. This will be very preferable while reporting your essay. Step 9. Use different sentence structures. As we mentioned earlier, we have a lot of sentence structures you can use. We have a lot of verbs, we have a lot of nouns. You can just vary while writing. You don't stick to one sentence structure. Actually, you need to use like compound sentences. You need to use also complex sentences. You need to use combination sentences, a kind of combination between compound and complex. This will make your writing very rich. Post-writing stage. After you finish your writing, you are not done yet. Still, you have one step to do, or you have one stage to finish, which is step 10. Edit your report. Need to edit and find the mistakes that you have. You're gonna find some mistakes that you didn't notice while writing. Give yourself about 2 minutes to edit your writing. Make sure that you have followed the instructions carefully. Be sure that you have written what you intended and that no important ideas are missing. In the last few minutes, check for obvious errors such as spelling and grammatical errors. Grammar, vocabulary, spelling, coherence. If you have all of these elements clearly done in your essay, you make sure you're gonna get band 8 or even more. For booking your online course, please contact via WhatsApp number 00966 0510 196 803. Thank you and best of luck.